Ladies and gentlemen, this is Joe's Classic Video Games back with another cool arcade repair video for you today. We are working on Atari's classic, legendary Dig Dug arcade game. We got this in a while back on trade for some stuff. And it's in pretty freaking nice shape, to be honest. Look at the side art. Wow, how do you not like that? Early 80s Atari greatness. And the control panel is still in very nice shape. Just nice enough to leave it alone, so we're not going to put a new one on it or anything. And then this side, also very nice, right? So here's the thing, it works, but it's got a few little issues, so we're going to fix them real quick and show you what we do. People like that. So, Dig Dug. So, when you look in the back, the first thing that you see is the board is actually mounted inside backwards, and they have some of the wires soldered to the board with some twist ties and all that crap, so we got to fix all of that. We've already rebuilt the monitor, and the game actually plays with it like that, but the sound doesn't work right. So we'll plug it in, and I'll show you how it is as it's sitting right now. Okay, so we've got it all looking good and playing good, but the sound is all screwed up. So it's getting there, but we've got sound problems, and clearly the wiring is an issue, which may be the sound problem. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to try to fix that wiring. So let's check that out again. So the board is in here backwards. They've got the harness flipped around upside down, so that needs to be the other way so that the board will be facing forward. I don't know if it's because the wires were cut too short or what, but we'll see what we can do. And then where they've got these wires soldered to the board, that was actually a pretty common thing that they did, because the edge connector, the pins would get resistance on them. So to get the power to the board, they would just solder directly to some of the traces. But what we're going to do is put new pins in it so that we no longer have that problem. So we'll let me pull the board out. Okay, so there were only 4 wires. One they had put a connector on. And they come from here. And luckily the harness had a little bit of extra wire, so I was able to pull them back long enough that they will be able to mount into the harness back where it goes. And the 4 wires are these 4 on the end here. And the reason that they had to do that was because the edge connector, focus. Ah, the wonders of a button. Yes, we got an issue here. So they had soldered this here, and then a third one on the back, and the 4th one never got put on. But, hey, it was working. Can't say too much about it. It was working. Sound's not working, but... So we'll, I'm going to clean up that connector and put some new pins in, and then we'll look at the board a little bit. Okay, so I replaced the pins and I zip tied it up a little bit. So it was these 4 end ones here. You see the nice new shiny pins? Look at that. Now don't let it hurt your eyes. Now on the board, the power actually circles around. I should go this way. The power circles around the board and also connects over here, but these are the sense wires. And usually they're not in as bad of shape, so they actually still look really good. But these 4 down here were all screwed up, so I can see why they had to do it. But if we look at the... Oh, and I zip tied it so that with the board mounted in there right, you can't really even put it on upside down. So hopefully that will fix that. But let's look at the board. So here's how it was. You can see it has just completely burnt that trace completely right off the freaking board. Right? And this was pretty common with these Ataris. After a while, they just do that. They get a little bit of resistance, and then resistance makes heat, and poof. But down here where the sense wires were, you see it's still in pretty good shape. A lot of these were connections for the video and the joystick and stuff like that. This one's probably that might be another voltage, I don't know. And then on the back, you see the big fat traces there, but notice how the traces go all the way through the board. So like this pin is connected with this via through the to the other side, to that big fat trace. Right? And so down here where they're burnt up, you got the same thing. This one is connected to this big fat trace. And it goes all the way around over here to this. And then this outside one is connected with that via whatever to the other side. So you can wrap tape all the way around the outside to make this connect with the other side the way it should, and this connect to the other side like it should. But the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to remove those wires and clean it up a little bit. Okay, so we got the wires off and all the extra solder off. And our one pin here is actually just fine, right? This end one is not. Let's see which one that actually is so I can start calling it the right thing. I think it's the ground. The ground is what burnt up. So what we're going to do is we're going to use some tape, trace tape, to basically make a new piece of tape, a new trace from where we've got good metal here, all the way around the edge and onto the back. As you can see, our whatever voltage this is still fine on this side too. It's just that one needs repaired. So we're going to pop some tape on it and solder that in and see how clean we can get it to look, because I know everybody is ready to give their grade. Alright, so how's that look? What you think? I think it looks pretty decent. What I always do is I put a little piece of tape, and then your only issue is if it has like adhesive on the back, but you can't really trust that. Your only issue is if that starts moving or something. So I get it stretched as tightly as I can, and then I actually solder the end of the tape to the trace. And then over here to the back, the same. So then what I like to do is, of course, I cleaned up all the fingers. Now you're going to say, how'd you clean it up? I'm not going to tell you how I cleaned it up, because everybody has their own ideas of how to do that. But we cleaned that up, and then I'm going to check to see if this one is connected to this one in any way, you know, because there might be a little solder splash or something that looks like one, but it's not, you know. So I need to check just to make sure there's no continuity between it. And then we're about ready to go, put it back in and see if it will still come up and do its thing. Okay, so far we haven't destroyed anything, and the sound still does not work. But we have the board installed and looking good. Got the harness the right way around. I can now see the LED light on it. I checked it. It's got 5 volts, 5.01 volts on the board, which is pretty good. So our next thing we're going to do is we're going to check out the power supply. We're going to check out the fuses in the bottom. It's already been worked over. It's got a new big blue and all that. So we're going to check to make sure the voltages are right on the coming off the fuses. And then we're going to check to make sure the voltages are right coming out of the power supply. Now we already have the 5 volts on the board, so we know that part's right. The way these Atari games work, most of them, is it creates the audio on the PCB board and then it sends it down here to this power supply where it amplifies it and sends it to the speakers. So we've either got an amplification problem, which is that little chip there and that little chip there, little TDA amplifiers, or we've got a problem with the preamp on the board, which I'm leaning towards. But I'm going to check the voltages first to make sure everything's all right. And the way I'm going to do that is I'm just going to look at the schematics and write down what voltages I should have. So this is how the audio is amplified on the power supply. The audio comes in here, audio 1 input, audio 2 input. right? And one is fed to this little amp, TDA 2002, which runs off the 10 volt DC that the 5 volt is made from. So we pretty much know it's there, but we're going to check it just to make sure nothing crazy is going on with it. And then the other one, the audio 2 input, runs through this one, TDA 2002. And then they're both outputted on speaker 1 and speaker 2, and they go right to the speakers. I think they go through the volume pot first, but that's mounted by the front door. But the whole thing is, if you listen to that audio, first of all, it's all like it. So since there's 2 amps, I don't know if they're both, I think they're both used. If one of them was bad, you'd think you'd still hear some of the stuff or whatever. And it's really low and it's kind of squeaky. So you're getting like a whistling noise and some interference and stuff. So just my opinion, I think it's on the main board. So let's look at that real quick. So this is the schematic of how the audio is created and blah, 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 and all this. That's a custom chip, so we need to look at that, I guess. Or maybe that's a ROM. That may be a ROM. But anyway, whenever it's all said and done, you can still hear the sounds. They're just real faint, and you can barely hear them, and they're kind of whistling and stuff. Right before it goes off the board, it runs through an LM324 at 11H, which is a pre-amp. And those things go bad all the time. I've done like 30 videos about that, and I've always replaced them, and sometimes it fixes it, and sometimes it doesn't. But if I was going to guess, I would guess it's that. And you see how it runs off just the 5 volts? Well, we know that the 5 volts is good on the board. But all of the audio runs through this one freaking chip that is a preamp. So if I was just going to have to throw a dart at a dartboard, I would think it's that chip. So I'm going to test the rest of the voltages in the bottom just to make sure. And if they're all fine, I'm going to replace that chip. But like we just saw on the schematics of the amplifier, it only runs off 10 volts, and we know we've got that. And then this just runs off 5 volts, and we know we've got that. So what missing voltage are we looking for here? It could be, well, if that's a ROM, I don't think that would make all of the sounds disappear. You can still hear them, they're just real faint. So I think it's like it's an amplification problem, and so it's either this preamp or it's, in my opinion, both of the amps on the power supply, which it could be, but since you're getting like a whistling and things, I think this is it. But I'm gonna check the voltages, and if they're fine, we're gonna look at this. Oh God, somebody's already replaced it.
Yeah, I thought I remember him.
So we're gonna pull that off and look at it. That don't look that great to me. Okay, it wasn't that bad. And we're going to try a different one in it, but I got a socket in. A lot of people don't like these machine pin sockets. I like them, though, on things like this, where you've got traces on the top that you need to see if they're connected right and make sure they're not shorted out to the next one. If you put it like a dual wipe socket in there, it covers all that up. So, but to each his own. I'm sure the people in the comment section will differ. So we're going to pop a new LM324 in and see if that changes anything. I kind of suspect it won't now because they already had swapped it. So unless that was done in antiquity, that might not fix it. Okay, so we've also got a problem where on the board a lot of the chips have a ton of corrosion on them. Look at that. Look at that, or oxidization. So we're going to carefully clean all those as well. I don't think that'll fix our sound issue, but hey, we'll try it. Okay, folks, so we replaced the 11H. That did not fix the sound, and we are working backwards now. We cleaned the chips. That did not fix the sound. And I took the board out, and I put a JAMA adapter on it so that I could test it on the bench. And guess what? On the bench, the sound is also screwed up. So we know it's something on the main PCB now, which is good. So we're looking at, and again, I can hear sounds, they're just quiet, right? And they have a weird squeal to them. So it's almost certainly got to be something right here at the end, I would think. It's just my thinking on it. So we've replaced this LM324. It could be one of these resistors. it could very well be this capacitor right here, C11.22. If you look, all of the sound runs through that, right? But the other thing that all the sound runs through is this 4066 switch. And just like the 324s that I'm always complaining about and the LM3900s that I'm always complaining about, these 4066s go bad a lot, people. From what I understand, it's the same as a 4016, which goes bad even more. So what you work on is you run into kind of some common problems. So, yeah. So that's our next thing that we're going to try. We're going to try swapping out that 4066. Now, if that's not the problem, since those are problematic anyways, we're not really hurting anything because we're getting it to where hopefully with a new 4066 it will last longer than whatever life would be left in this one if it's still working. Or that very well could be what's wrong with it. We could get a probe or a scope and try to figure out what's going on. And we may still have to, but we're going to do this for now. So if you look, this I guess that's a buffer, maybe? A 273? Whatever. It's putting out 4 signals that come in, and then 4 other signals on the switch that turns the switch on and off, the 4066, and then the signal goes through the 4066, is attached with resistors to this line. This line is attached with a cap to ground and a resistor to 5, and then over here a resistor to ground, and everything goes through this capacitor, and then it goes into this network the way they've got the LM324 set up. So we think this is probably all right. The cap is suspect as hell. These resistors are probably all right, but this switch is the next logical thing for me. So I'm gonna swap that switch and see if that gets us working. But like I said, we tested it on the bench, so we know now that it is something on the game board. It could be a trace somewhere or something too, but that there's some kind of, I don't know if noise is getting into it and that's why it's squealing, or if something's going on. So we're gonna try the switch next. You can see how beautiful the traces are on these things whenever you get the chip out. Just look at that. That's so cool. And it's from all the way back in June of '82. Look at that. All right, so we'll put a socket in and another 4066. Okay, folks, I have the board on the workbench and I am messing with it. So I have hooked up the logic probe. I hate having to do this. And I've printed out the schematics of the audio section. And I have been carefully probing through to see if anything's obviously missing, and I have found that on this 10C it says select and then it says MUX on it. This 10C LS157, I have found a signal that is missing. So pins 2 and 3 are active, but pin 4, which would be the output, is just low all the time. So it could be that 10C's bad, or it could be the signals coming in 2 and 3 are bad, which you could probably tell on a scope. Or it could be that the output, pin 4, that connects to 12C, maybe 12C is shorted. Or it could be the output also connects down here to pin 14 at 11C. Those are 2 RAM chips. Maybe they're holding it low. But that one's low, so I'll show you. 10C, pin 4. So I've got it set up. Game is up and playing. This is 10C. Pin 2 has a nice pulse. Pin 3 has a beautiful pulse. Pin 4 is stuck low. Okay, folks, so I turned the power off and I checked that pin 4. See how it goes? It's stuck low, but it connects to this one and this one. So what I did was I turned the power off and I measured continuity between pin 4 and ground. See, notice the chip is connected to ground with pin 15, and this chip is connected to ground here, and I think another place. Same here. So everything has an internal connection to ground. So the theory is if one of these 3 chips is shorted to ground with the power turned off, that pin will still be connected to ground, right? So I turned the power off and the pin was not connected to ground. So it's something that it's doing while the program's running. So I decided, well, screw it. Let's just swap that chip. Because it's getting good inputs, but it's not getting good outputs. Well, I'm guessing that they're good inputs, but not good outputs. So let's check it out. This is Dig Dug's boot up. Does all kinds of crazy stuff. All right, so what do you think? $7 credits for a quarter. Ah! And like a bolt, out of the blue, fate steps in and sees you through. Just remember, people, when you wish upon a star, dreams come true. All right, so we fixed the freaking sound. It was on the board the whole time. Unbelievable. That one little chip, that one little pin was making it sound like crap. Holy moly. All right, so I'm going to put it back in the cabinet. Now I got to show you some more. The word I want to use starts with an F and ends with a uri. Effery. But it's a longer word than that. You know what I'm saying? I'm going to show you some more effery in the cabinet that I got to fix. Okay, so I appear to be traveling behind some former tech who was trying to track down the same problem. Because look at this crap. But look at this crap. That is the original 50 ohm rheostat that they use to control the volume. That's a big heavy duty one, and somebody has taken the wires off of it and replaced it with this small one. So I don't know too much about that, but I know that big one runs a lot of wattage through it. I don't know if this little one, I don't know what would happen if you run all that wattage through a smaller one like that. So we're trying to figure that out. So I'm going to take the old rheostat out and see if it's broke or why they would have disconnected that. They may have just disconnected it because the sound wasn't working right. Okay, so here is that rheostat out of the cabinet, and it actually is in pretty good shape. I sprayed a little bit of contact cleaner on it and down inside there just so that it would turn a little better. These things are always hard to turn. It's just how they, for whatever reason, you can see somebody's really got on this thing with some pliers, but for whatever reason, whenever they put these in the Atari cabinets, they never put a knob on them. So they have this little tiny shaft that's kind of hard to turn with your hand. I don't know why they did that, but they did do that. So the way you can check one of these is if it's a 50 ohm, the resistance should be 50 ohm all the way around the track. So you got one, what would you call that? One terminal and another terminal on the outside, and see how it's connected all the way around. And then the way it works is as you turn the knob, it moves this little thing around the track. Okay? And so if between here and here is 50 ohms, between here and here should always be less than 50 ohms, because look, it's shorter. So you're going, instead of from here all the way around to here, you're going from here through here to here. And so from here to here should be less than 50 ohms. And you would guess, since it's a little less than halfway, that it should be more like, I don't know, 25 ohms or 20 ohms. And then if you move it around all the way over here, that should be more like 45 ohms, because you're almost at the end, right? So between here and here should be like 45 ohms. But between here and here should be like 5 ohms. It doesn't have to be exact. Sometimes it'll be 50, and then this will be 50 right here, you know. And, it's just a little bit off. If it's a little bit off, everything's cool. So we want it to be 50 ohms or so all the way around, and from here to the middle we want it to be 50 ohms. So let me see if I can set it up. Okay, let me get it set up where here you can see it. So from here to here should be less than 50, and then whatever it isn't from 50, that should be what it is from here to here, because you got 50 all the way around. So, with the meter set on ohms, well, let's do the outside ones first. This sucker is 49.5 ohms, so that means the track is still intact. And on these big rheostats, usually it is. It's a big old wire, you know. And then so from this middle one to here, where it's a little short distance, it's 6.3 ohms. And from here to the middle one, it's 43 or so ohms. So that's 49.5 ohms, right? Perfect. Now, if you turn it, you should be able to turn it pretty much the other way and have the same thing happen. So something like that. It's now... That's 7 ohms or so that way, and then from here to here is 41.6 ohms. So that's pretty much good, right? So this thing's fine. So we're going to put this back in. And since it's bigger, like it's more wattage, so I want to get this one working instead of that little one, you know, because I don't know if that thing's going to hold up. This is the original one. And usually, like we show all the time, usually the original stuff you can fix. So we're going to put this back in, and that should get our sound working with the board working. And we'll see how everything turns out. Okay, so I took this out and I remounted the potentiometer back in there, got it soldered back on. So we're going to put this back in the cabinet, and then we're going to slide the board back in and see if we've got sound in the cabinet. Okay, folks, now I've got that crystal clear sound all pumped up, all right? So you get ready for it. It's going to be great. Now, I'm not any good at playing it, but we got to test it, right? Boom! Ah, you see what he did to me? Will he do it again? Yes, he will. I think you get more points when you do that, right? Come at me, bro. Oh, whoa, he got me. Boy's mad. Boy, it's a dangerous game I'm playing there when I dig right up to the edge. Whoa. Oh, he's gonna run. I shouldn't have done that. Look at him, little sucker. He didn't run. I thought he was going to. Alright, so I'm on like level 4. This is about as far as I can go, probably. So I'm not going to stop all the cute stuff and just try to kill them all. Come to Papa. Ooh, you did. I guess you can't just do it like this. Man, they're fast. I had just thrown my pump out. All right, well, as you heard, it sounds great. So there you go. Atari's super cool Dig Dug. All fixed up and ready to go. Off to its new home. Now this Dig Dug, from what I understand, is going to be put back into service at an arcade. Can you believe that? We got a buddy who's got an arcade that he opened. And he's down in Greenville, Simpsonville. And he wants a Dig Dug. So this one is going to end up in his arcade where everybody can play it. That line that you're seeing go through the screen, that's just the camera. You can't see it with your naked eye. Everything working good, and best of all, the sound works good. So another one rides the bus. Out the door it goes. Leave your comments below. Hopefully if you have some sound problems, it'll help you figure out yours. Let us know what you think. Now, if you like repair videos like this, subscribe to us here on YouTube because we do videos like this all the time, y'all. A couple times a week. Oh, this is going to get them. Yep, it got them. Amateurs. All right, so leave your comments below. Let us know what you think. Hope you enjoyed the video, and we will see you on the next one. By the way, if you want to see more Dig Dug, we've got another video here on YouTube that's like the whole game and showing off the cabinet, and we play it for 30 minutes and all that stuff. So I'll try to put the link at the end of this one. See you on the next one.